everybody.
You know, I realized in our very first introductory podcast, do I still have banana on my lip? Okay. I realized we didn't introduce your dog, who is our guest always on this podcast. The Jenna Elfman and Heather Dale discuss all the things. We didn't include our fellow bitch called Winnie.
Winnie Pooh. Hi.
Winnie, the Frenchie. Oh, there she is. Hi, Winnie.
Hi, sweetie.
You're a good girl.
Yeah.
So if you ever see in the background when you're watching this, Winnie's tongue out, it only means good things. It just means she's relaxed and supportive while we sit here and do our female thing. So it's not like she's sticking her tongue out at us or mocking us doing this thing. It's just full support of relaxation. She's relaxed by us talking.
She is.
Yeah.
When I first got her, I was driving back from Mississippi. It was like a 12-hour drive, and it was just the two of us, obviously. And I looked over at her, and just a little bit of pink was peeking out, and she was just like sleeping with her little. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's sticking her tongue out, but you could barely see it. And I took about 30 photos. Like I thought it was the cutest thing. Well, little did I know that she would do it all the time. But it actually is her barometer of like relaxation and happiness.
And feeling safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
Kind of how I feel around you, Heather.
Oh. That'll be our that'll be like our code.
It's the most becoming
and the more
view.
And the further out it is, the more so last night she was on her back and it was like fully out and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so happy.
She's so happy and content.
I'll just come to your house and be like,
yeah.
Bodhi will be like, what is happening?
Like, is Heather okay? Or she needs, like, should I call
her
husband?
Like, it's fine. She's completely relaxed and happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. On one of our walks that we did, we were talking about this sort of quote unquote new normal, but as regards to the women being the epicenter of stability and succor for our family, and what a stressful thing that is when we're having to do that going through something no one's ever gone through before called a global pandemic. And I found it comforting in a misery loves company kind of way, but not in a double down on misery kind of way, but more in a okay, I'm not alone kind of way. No matter what, like everyone has their challenges, and certainly we are doing just fine. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to come close to complaining because I've observed what other people really have been going through. But there's also a lot of people that are in this medium stress level like us that, I don't know, made me feel good to know that you were just as stressed out as I was as the female in the family, and how it like kind of wasn't feeling safe to go through the natural emotional response of a pandemic in front of your family because they need you to not be that way. But how do you not be that way when you are that way? And, yes, it's not like you need to be like expressing all the things all the time, but it's like, it's very unstabilizing, I was finding, for the men in my family. Like, 'cause I have 2 sons and a husband. Boy, when mama's not right, they really don't like that. Mm-hmm. And obviously I want to be strong and set a great example for my kids, but you need some outlet to go be able to be like, I'm not right, and I don't know how to get right in a way that they don't see, or because I didn't feel like Bodhi fully gets it. Yeah, what the female experience is of having to be the emotional center, which is already challenging naturally.
Well, and I just feel like when the pandemic started, I was always in like fight or flight, like I was like, the curveballs that it was throwing at us. And it's like, okay, I have to take care of my child, my husband to a certain extent, like a lot of his emotional needs. And just, I feel like I am a lot of the stability in this family because typically I'm like super even keel. It's just the way I was raised. Like, my parents were that way and are that way. So, I think because I've set that bar in our family, there's a certain expectation that mom's always going to be okay, you know? So when everything started rolling out in 2020, and I was just like, I literally felt. We
haven't done the thesaurus yet.
No, we haven't had the treatment. I felt like it was just, I was always getting thrown around. And after a while, like, it's just so taxing on you. You try to be that anchor for everybody. And when we went to Canada and we were in this like environment of my husband's working from home, my daughter's in school, and I'm like just taking care of everybody, cooking, cleaning. I'm everyone's therapist. I'm everyone's like soundboard. I'm the helper. I'm the dog walker. I'm the, you know, I was playing so many roles.
So who's your caretaker? Who's doing that for you?
Yeah. And everyone was stressed. So the last thing I wanted to do was lean on somebody else and say, you know, hey, I'm kind of struggling. Like, you know, can I get some help? Or like it really was. We were just kind of isolating ourselves, but yet like kind of in our own, like wallowing in our own misery a little bit, you know? And I think in the beginning I was in denial. Like, I'm like, oh, this is gonna end soon.
Everybody did. That was the information we were given.
Yeah.
So everyone thought, okay, we're hunkering down for a couple weeks. Oh no, another week. Oh no, maybe another month. Okay. And this information, that information, it's very unstabilizing when information keeps changing, and you know, etc.
Yeah. So when you're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, I think it's just like the human condition that you hope that things are going to get better. And then they're not, and it's like Groundhog Day every day. It just messes with your psyche, you know what I mean? And it wears you down. So, you know, as we talked about in our first, podcast episode, like just coming back and, you know, having this friendship with you where I could just be like, I know you're Jenna Elfman, but by the way, like, life is nutballs right now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of feeling this like pain that I'm not used to feeling, and I'm questioning a lot of things. I remember that's the night we went on that walk. Like, I was just like, I don't know if this is just like repressed PTSD, you know, because it's like I feel like we were in not a war, I'm not gonna say a war zone, but we were in crisis mode.
Yeah.
Extended crisis mode, period. And it's not like we got out of it. Like, I remember, you know, being in school or whatever, and you have a really hard exam, and you just like
you cram, you hunker down. It's like intense.
Yeah, so stressful.
But you know it's short term, and you know it's finite. Yeah. It's going to end. And you can tolerate that.
Yeah.
You can bear a burden if it's like a short, intense burst of, you know.
Even when having a baby, like having a new, I mean, again, we'll probably talk about this in another episode, but having a newborn baby is so hard on so many levels. But I guess maybe I didn't know it was going to end the Groundhog Day of the loss of sleep and the stress. But I kind of did, because I'm like, she can't stay a baby forever. She can't not sleep forever. But this whole pandemic, like, whenever I told myself it was going to get better, then, you know, then a new variant would come out, or then the cases would rise again. Like, I feel like we thought we were coming out of it, and then the cases just spiked again. So I think it was people were getting all excited, you know, and starting to live life again. And then we got like another like hit of no, numbers are back up. Yeah. We got to go back into lockdown. And it
like
was
extreme,
just
like in a matter of weeks, it was like, oh, we're getting back to normal. And then Delta wave came and literally drowned everybody in reversing back into something that we thought was temporary, that had a lot of pain and discomfort and unpredictable qualities to it. And it's everything you don't want to go back into. And then,
and just being hopeful, like, oh, there is an end to this. And then, being thrown back into it. I think, we didn't have our second wind.
Right.
Like, usually you're like, oh, I have my second wind to get through this. It's like we were all so depleted. There was no second wind.
Yeah.
So when that second round happened, it was just like, my tank it was empty before. I was on fumes. Now I'm like, I don't even know how I'm functioning.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
starts feeling very grindy.
Grindy, yeah.
Like there's no like life lube. Like there's no lubrication to getting through the day. Like
Yes.
So you start going, all the things that used to be my floaties that kept me from drowning, I don't have access to, can't use, can't engage with. I've lost in the first round of isolation. And everyone has, in that first wave of the pandemic, everyone going into this sort of intense survival mode and doing what we saw a huge shift in priorities, right? Like everybody had a priority shift, which I think was a blessing. Because people then, everyone being in the same boat, were frankly emboldened to make life choices they had been fantasizing about but never could without being judged or looked upon, or I want to go live in the woods with my family,
Yes.
and they can and work from home, and they're now actually having these opportunities. As many times I've talked about the hidden blessings in this pandemic, which is sort of the playing field being leveled in terms of keeping up with the Joneses. It kind of doesn't exist. That pressure goes away, and you just get to kind of sort out for yourself what you need to do. And then that was fine for like a chapter. But then it was like, now that you lived that chapter, then who am I now? And who are all my relationships? And who am I to these people? Because everyone changed, right? Actually, everyone really changed. And so friendships shifted. I certainly shifted priorities in who I felt like talking to and who I didn't feel like talking to. And then you think you're coming out of it, and then but you don't have time to reestablish or recalibrate. And then that second thing hits, and then you just feel weird because now I felt like I didn't even know which way was up anymore.
I know. I was just so exhausted.
And how do you like sort through the weirdness? That's the thing, right? It's like, what is this weirdness? And how do I, in this weirdness, who am I to my family?
Yeah.
Right? But everyone's expecting you to be ace.
Yes.
And you don't want to make them feel unstable by going, look, I'm not totally ace right now. But then maybe it's better to say that than just not acting ace and having them wonder what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But it is did you have a conversation with your family about like, hey, I am doing my best and I'm not always going to be normal during this weirdness. But then I felt like if I was totally open about that, I'd freak my kids out. Because if they're like, if mom can't handle this, like, what are we actually in? Is this really dangerous? And I didn't want the world to feel overly dangerous to them. It's like trying to have them still feel like life can be kind of normal, and being very attentive to what I put on their plate about what's going on in the world. Like, certainly they need to know so they can be safe, and why are we doing the things we're doing to keep them safe, but without having it be super dangerous.
Yeah.
And having them lose their childhood going through a time of absolute terror or unnecessary stress.
I know. To
their developing bodies, their hormones. Like, I don't want to put them under stress, but then I'm under stress, and then I'm being stressed, which is then putting them under stress.
Yeah.
And I remember we were talking about feeling weird.
Yeah. I think I never had the conversations. Like, I think my husband and I are really good, not stress management people, but like when shit hits the fan, like I feel like my husband was like made for pandemic life because he's just Mr. Survivor. So when that happened, like he was like, okay, now's my time to shine. Like, I've already got these things lined up, and I've already, I already thought of like this scenario, and like we had the generator, like all of those things. But as I've learned in life, like until you actually experience something, you just don't know. And for me, like it was great that he was prepared, like he had his checklist, but were we emotionally prepared? no. I mean, we were just going through the motions of like, okay, let's get through this. Let's get through this. And then I think I just like cracked a bit, you know? And I was so run thin that I never actually like could sit down and articulate like, I'm not okay. You know what I mean? It would just get to the point where we would just be like going. And then all of a sudden like, mom's not okay. What the heck is going on? You know? And I think I was always trying to be like my calm, you know, loving, sweet self, because that's what they expect. And I didn't want to scare my daughter, and I didn't want to stress her out. But she felt, I mean, they're like sponges, you know? She definitely felt it, and she's a smart kid. So she had questions that needed answers. And, I think after that second variant, Delta variant, and I realized, okay, this might be more of, and we talked about this, like more of like, this is our new normal. Like, I need to, and I had an epiphany when we were talking about it. It was like, okay, I'm not going to go back to Heather BP before pandemic. Like, that's just not going to happen, because there is no life now. Like, this happened, and we're all going to be forever changed because of it. So it's like, we have to figure out who we are now. And it's like redefining, as you said, like we questioned a lot of things. We're not the same. So it's like, how are we after pandemic? Even though we're still in it, it's just like, you can't live in like this pause limbo mode. And I think that's why I was getting so down and upset, because I was just like, okay, gotta get through it. And it's like, no, once I accepted this is life now, I still have to take care of myself. You know, I still have to like do the things that make me happy. I need balance, whatever form I can find that in. And yeah, there's going to be things that are scary, but it's like you just have to keep moving forward, you know? And not make crazy, rash, drastic decisions.
That's true.
I think you gave me that advice on multiple times, but I believe that's the case, because when you're feeling like down in the dumps or there's a lot happening, and I remember saying this to you on the walk, because I was like, it's right now I'm questioning everything, because I feel like, obviously looking back now, the psychology of it would be I felt a loss of control, which I think we all did. So I was trying to get it back. And I thought, in a messed up way, if I make some big decisions, I'm going to get that back. You know?
Like Dire Matters required the big swinging choices.
Yes.
Which can be unstabilizing in an unstable world. Because there's the infrastructure's not known for those kind of big choices. Unless they are clear. You know, sometimes with the pandemic, big choices came and they totally felt right, you know, because they added stability. But the big swinging choices, when they're made from, if they increase instability and they're coming from instability, but you just feel like you have to do something, but if it doesn't have enough like tactile reality, you know, to it, of like, where you can go, this is a big swinging choice, and here's how it's going to stabilize me in ways that you can definitely predict and understand, then that's awesome. But it feels like when it's rash and reactionary, I mean, always that's not going to be a good thing. But I think we lost, during this moment of stress, it felt like we lost our own measuring tools for what is a big choice or not, or is swinging supposed to, is this swinging choice of I'm going to make a big rash decision based on my instability from the pandemic? Like, the reference points were all gone. So
Yes.
then it felt like I'd have no new reference points. So now I don't actually know how to calibrate or what's my barometer here. You know, it was just like, And I think that's one of the things that, you know, going back to what is stabilizing, no matter what the situation, is like a friend and
Yes.
communication
Yes.
and listening and acknowledging, and how very, very stabilizing those little things can be to bringing you back to feeling oriented when so much is disorienting you, so much is making you feel like you can't plan for tomorrow. You have to find the things that you do know, and that you, even if they're dinky, you can predict and maintain, that are enhancing, you know?
Yeah.
And like you and I seeing each other a lot and being there for each other, was so it gave me hope again,
Me too.
you know, to know that like we can, I mean, it really makes you look at what's the purpose of life. Like what you do ask yourself that question when you feel like you're standing in a turbo engine of uncertainty. And that was one of the big shifts for me, was what are the most important things in life that hold their importance and value despite, like, if everything were to crumble, which it's not going to, and it hasn't, and it's not, but when you feel like it is through whatever turmoil, it's those connections with other human beings. I have another friend who mastered in female studies and had a PhD and did a lot of, she's very educated in philosophy, and she was, you know, she would quote Socrates a lot, and in the most beautiful, poignant, perfect timing ways. But it's just about making meaning with other people, you know, and that always just like stuck with me, is like making meaning with others.
Yes.
And you feel like you're putting like a handprint into the narrative of Earth when you make meaning with another person. You know, it feels like you're etching into Earth's memory banks good things when you make meaning with someone else. And I recently went back, just to accent that, I recently went back to Los Angeles because I had to do some work stuff there. And something that I've really enjoyed about Austin, and how much you represent the people of Austin and my experience here, because people are so nice here. As you go through your day here in Austin, people genuinely are, for the most part, if they say, "How are you doing today?" they actually really do want to know, and they listen for your answer, and they hope it's a good answer. When you look at someone in the eye, they look at you and they nod. Total strangers, you wave they wave back. And that's how I was raised. And that, I went to LA. If you look at someone, they look away. Or if you say, "How are you?" they're like sus that you want something from them. And they're like, "Do I know you? Like, why are you talking to me?" That's the norm in Los Angeles. And as you go through your day, in an effort to, even like a little "hello, how are you?" "Oh, that's, hey, you're having a good hair day today." "Oh, thanks, yeah." These like little making meanings, little enhancements, right? Like when you look at someone and you smile and they smile back and they see you and acknowledge you, like that's enhancing. And when someone looks away from you, purposefully, when you look at them, that's lessening. It lessens your affinity with each other. It lessens how real you are to each other. There's certainly no communication involved. And so you get kind of dismantled in these like micro ways as you go through the day, I find, in Los Angeles. And then I come here, and as I go through my day, whether it's the market, the cleaners, the Starbucks, I'm having these little micro enhancements. And so just the entire character of living, how much it sounds corny, but I have really become cynical lately. And I'm seeing, I was never a cynical person, ever. Like never. I was always like, people were so suspect of my energy outwards, because they're like, "Why are you so nice?" Like it's gotta be suspect. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I just enjoy life, but I know that could be a painful thing for someone else. But I realize how much you can help others and how much you can be helped by others by accepting the smiles or giving a communication or a hello. And it seems so corny and idealistic or oddly simple. And certainly in its simplicity wouldn't be meaningful. It's so damn meaningful, to say hello to a total stranger.
Yeah.
And ask them how they are and genuinely are interested in their response. I can't tell you. Mm-hmm. And my boys were gobsmacked at how friendly everybody is here. And they felt like a perv in a van was going to come steal them at any moment in LA. That's the takeaway, Los Angeles. And I really, that I am a native Angelino, and I really hope to God that city straightens itself out, because it's super depressing right now.
Yeah.
I found, for me, it was. But that's what I feel like, you being such a kind and sweet person, it goes so far. I mean, it goes so far. And I think that we all are having our versions of feeling discombobulated, disoriented, lonely, scared, unstabilized, and just how in micro ways throughout the day you can help and be helped by others. And it goes so far in these ways of feeling like, oh, we're all here for each other still.
Connection.
Yeah, like sincere connection.
Yeah. Like Austin, I mean, there's been so many times like that here. In San Francisco, I felt a little bit like Los Angeles.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of San Francisco.
I feel like it'd be a great place to visit, but living there, I just always felt unsettled. Like I couldn't place it. And I thought I had this like homesick feeling. And I just thought, I guess I'm supposed to be back in Canada. Like it's a Canadian thing. I need to be back in my country. Although I didn't feel that way in London, but I don't know. And then we came here, and we were coming here for my husband's job, and he's like, let's just try it out and see if you like it. And I was like, I don't know, Texas, like, there's just like a lot of Texan stereotypes, and I was on I think it was the first night, and I was just like done. Like, I remember it was 10 years ago, so there wasn't much traffic, and we had a rental car, and we were driving everywhere, and I just loved, like, I missed the whole just driving up to a place and parking and getting out. Like in San Francisco, everything was just a little bit of a headache and like a logistical nightmare, like parking and the lineups, and you want to go for a nice relaxing Sunday brunch and there's like an hour long wait. Like it wasn't what I was accustomed to, and then coming here, we didn't have that, I feel like it's busier now, but I feel like it's still not like that.
It's still amazing here.
Yeah, it's still not like that.
You lose half your life in traffic in Los Angeles. Honestly, like your life just burns out from under you. So, but the funny story was, I pulled into Whole Foods downtown, which Whole Foods is like headquartered here. And I was just excited to, be in the place where Whole Foods, the health nut foodie that I am. And I think I'd become a little bit jaded being in San Francisco, and, like kind of always watching my back, and also like getting used to people not being super warm and open. And I pulled into my parking spot, and I saw this, older gentleman kind of staring at me. And, my first reaction was like, oh, great, here we go. Like, not in a good way. And that's not who I am, Like, back home, it's like everyone helps each other. And it was just such a trusting environment. And, it was just like you waved at everybody. And, it was great. So anyways, I saw him looking at me, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like, I'm either doing something wrong, he's mad at how I'm parking, or he's like checking me out, or he's being gross or something like that. Like and that's how I thought. Mm-hmm. I've gone back to the way I was, which is great. But I got out, and he had a big cowboy hat on. And he looks at me, and he takes his cowboy hat, like very Texas, and he tips it, and he goes like this, and he's like, afternoon, ma'am. Oh, so sweet.
And he was just being like the perfect gentleman. And then I remember going into Whole Foods and like shopping, and everyone's just so happy, and like I just feel like they didn't have the like the weight of the world on them, that I felt like people in San Francisco, it was very like that hustle grinding mentality, you know, like I'm in my own lane, like don't get in
Yeah,
my
it's like
lane.
a bunch of individuals and not any sense of like the greater connection, and that would be beneficial to engage upon.
Yeah, like it's like
Like I don't think they see how like it helps them as an individual to be connected to your fellows, right? Like to have a sense of brotherhood with your fellow humans. It makes the day so much better.
Yeah.
But you lose track of that.
Yeah, and then like even in stores, like people would just be like, "Hey, how are you?" And like they really meant it. Like it wasn't just, you know, filler. Like it was like, "No, like you doing okay?" You know?
Yeah.
Um
I'm so glad you're saying that, because I've been saying that, but it's not just, you know, me having culture shock and like kind of over expounding on the greatness, but it really is.
Yeah. Like I got here and I was just like, oh, this feels so good. You know, like it just felt like a big warm blanket. And I'm like, we found our place, you know? Like, I'm like, I just freaking love this place. And it's been 10 years and it's been such an amazing 10 years.
Yeah.
Like meeting such great people, and the city's so beautiful. And I feel like there's just more, I feel like people are just happier here because there's more balance. Like it's like, yeah, people work hard and everyone's doing such interesting things, but it's not just this like ego, gotta get to the top. Like, it's not, I'm in this for myself. Like it's like, it's more of a collective, like greater good, like, you know, get out on the lake and you know, enjoy the fine things that Austin has to offer. Like everyone
like
wants the good life
enhancing.
of the family life and the, you know, be out in nature and the beauty of it all and the good food and the, I don't know. I feel like people are just happier. They have a little more spring in their step here.
They do. I think it's more balanced, like you said. And, you know, I think that was the thing that I think is, you know, through this new normal and how to navigate through the weirdness is connection. And finding ways to connect in meaningful ways, even if they're dinky and seemingly meaningless. They are not. And I think we see that time and time again when, you know, you'll see these viral videos and it's like someone just sort of like bought someone's coffee, a stranger's coffee out of nowhere, and it just so happened, it's gonna make me cry. It just so happened that person had just had like a horrible day and had just gotten fired, and like the fact of a random stranger just getting their coffee for them, you know, was so, and like what? That's like $4 extra, you know, and you totally can rehabilitate someone's hope in humanity by doing those small gestures. And I think that's the way out of the weirdness of feeling lost, lonely, overstressed, not having an emotional center for yourself, is to like find the small ways to connect, and you start realizing that like it's beneficial to everybody when we operate that way.
Do you want to hear another true Austin story?
Yeah.
So this happened not too long ago. So my dad, unfortunately, recently passed away unexpectedly, which we'll talk about another time. But the day I found out he had passed, I still, you know, I had to take my daughter to dance, and there was just a lot of things. We couldn't fly out that day anyways, and I didn't want to totally disrupt her life. So I was just like keeping it to myself, which was like so hard, you know.
It's awful. It was so impactful.
Yeah. So I remember we were getting gas before I took her to dance and trying to like keep my composure and hold it together. And I'm a huge animal lover. Like my love for creatures and all living things, like there's no bounds to what I love. So I'm getting gas, and I look down and I see this like super brightly colored beetle like down, and it was like half alive, half dead. So this is just the stuff that I do. This is just me, which people would be like, what the heck? But I pick it up, and I said to my daughter in the back, I'm like, well, we gotta try and help it. Like, it's just gonna get run over. It's obviously suffering. Something either hit it or it's dehydrated. So I took her to dance, and where she takes dance, there's these like beautiful trees in the parking lot. And I was looking around, I'm like, where can I actually put this beetle to try and recover. So I park and we walk over to this tree, and I was kind of like setting it in this shaded leaf area. And we were probably standing at the tree for no more than a minute. But again, keep in mind, like, I'm trying to hold it together, but I'm helping the beetle. My daughter's going to go to dance. I'm going to tell her after dance about my dad. And we go back to my car, or I go back to my car. She goes into dance. And this gentleman comes out of one of the local businesses. I think he was a barber. And, you know, I'm like, my eyes were all red and bloodshot. And he's like, oh, were you looking at the tree? And I said, oh, no. I said, I had a beetle. And I said, it didn't look like it was doing very well. So I was putting it, you know, in the shade or whatever. And he's like, well, I thought you were admiring the tree, but so I wanted to give you something. He said, this is I forget the name of it, but he said it's one of these rare blooming, it was a beautiful tree. He's like, it's one of these rare blooming trees, and the seeds are really hard to come by. So he opens up his hand and he has all these like pods of seeds. And he's like, normally I sell them, but he's like, for you, he's cause he saw maybe he was going to sell it, but then when he knew I was helping the beetle, it was just a full circle moment. Like, he brought these special pod seed things out for me. Now I can like plant the seeds and enjoy the beauty of this tree. But it was also like everything from what I was experiencing. Like, I just felt like, I'm like, this is so Austin. Like, the fact that he was in working, saw me out at the tree, thought I was admiring it, which it was beautiful. But then he was like, I want her to have experienced the beauty of this tree forever. I'm going to give her these special seeded pod things that are really hard to get. You know,
is Austin.
And
that is how it is.
And the way that I am too, I was like, Dad, is this you? Like,
yeah.
Is this, I'm going to plant you? And, you know, like, but it was so comforting. And it's moments like that too, like when you're just aware of them, you know, when you're, obviously I was out of it because I was mourning, but I was still aware. And like, I took that good deed as just the comfort that it was. And I was like, you know, I'm like, A, I freaking love Austin. But B, I'm like, thank you, humanity, you know, for people being like this gentleman. And they're everywhere. These people are everywhere.
They are everywhere here.
Including you know. That these simple gestures just, that is what life is about. And that, as you said, there's been so many blessings to this pandemic. And for me, it helped like wipe away all the fluff, the unnecessary fluff, you know, and just really like drill down on what's important, what truly makes me happy, and what do I want? What is this next chapter going to be? You know, because all that other stuff, thank you, pandemic, for getting rid of it.
Yeah.
You know,
shifting the importances, the ratio, and the placement of importances on one's orientation board of life. Yeah, it's I think these simple gestures are like so easy to do and go such a long way. And like, that guy did that, and now we're talking about it on this podcast, and now someone else is going to hear it. And you know, as destructive and contagious as bad acts can be, the corollary is true of the small, simple gestures and sincerity and genuine friendliness, even if it's in a microscopic fashion that you think is not worth anything. It is, because it's goodness. And we definitely need, and you never know what somebody's going through. You just never know. And especially right now, everybody's going through something at any given time of the day, week, or month. And it's just those little gestures. I just really would encourage people to do it and to try that out and build it into more of a regular fashion in their life, because it's so helpful to oneself and to others. I was walking out from a coffee place the other day, and my 14-year-old son was with me, and he held the door for me, and then he stayed holding the door. Aww. Why does this make me want to cry? Because I've taught him definitely about holding doors for people. He just stayed holding the door until that batch of people were going, without any sort of pomp and circumstance of, look, I held the door, Mom. You know, he just was holding it. Mm-hmm. And oh God, I just was like so proud of him. And I just feel like, you know, when you see a teenage boy, like a 14-year-old kid, like self-determinedly holding the door for the men and women that were exiting, when I see that, I feel so inspired that like the future is bright. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, I think there's so much in our social media and everything that we feel like any sort of common connection and decency and acts of regularity are gone, because with how social media has taken over, seemingly educating our kids into an unbelievable one only, self only kind of way. I was just so proud of him, and I feel like, again, that was a small thing that he was just doing out of respect, and that he has a junior position in the world, as he hasn't lived as much as others, and I felt so proud of that, and I felt like, okay, so he is learning from me, you know, and it's what I learned from my parents, and it does, again, it's just something that gives me hope that like it's not all for naught, because I think as parents we can feel like it's just all for naught. Like, is all of this, like the amount of hard work, the amount of bandwidth parenting, if you're a conscientious, caring parent. I mean, there are parents who don't care, and they're just literally absent. So those aren't the kind I'm talking about, though I know deep in their hearts they do care. And there's just something that's hard for them to face. But the ones that aren't ignoring their children and that do care, it's so reassuring and bolstering, and, you know, you just, I don't know, it does make all the hard work worth it.
Yeah, your kids are so incredible. They're like the sweetest.
They're sweet boys.
They're so sweet. I was like, oh, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
But I think it's those little gestures.
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone to find.
Yes.
Do a good little gesture every day.
Do it.
I think it's, you know, I think it goes a lot farther than you think, and it also will make, even if you're the most cynical person, do it anyway, as you'll start feeling more alive and less cynical.
Totally.
You can get in a habit of cynicism, by the way. It's a habit. Like, you can just shut it down and you get into a habit. And then then when I have those moments of connection that make me feel so much brighter and so much more alive, I realize that I'd slid down the slope of cynicism and I didn't like it there.
Yeah.
And you realize this world is not going to function unless we all are being aware of each other and being common, unilaterally decent to each other.
Helping.
Yeah.
Courteous, conscientious.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be some
martyr.
No.
No. Just simple things. On that note,
I feel warm and cozy. I think I need a cup of hot chocolate now.
Let's throw another shrimp on the barbie.
Till next time, do some good acts.
Be good. Have fun. Smile. Wink. If you have a mask on. People can tell when you're wearing masks and you smile because you get squinty eyes. Yeah. So smile. Smile through your masks. Or wink. Or peace. Or
salute. Or tip the hat. Or
wait. Like, even when you're saying goodbye, if they can't physically read your mouth, I always do like a wave.
You can also nod.
Afternoon,
bow.
ma'am. Tip your cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Be good.
Peace.